Hello, everyone. This is Tommy at World at War Comics, and today we have another amazing interview. But before we get into that, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that ring bell. That way you know every time we're dropping a new interview. All right. So today, as always, our podcast is brought to you by Xion Chilies, the best hot sauce that you could buy. Go to CIENCHILES.com, CienChilies.com. Pick out your favorite hot sauce. The Thai Bird is the hottest. It's my personal favorite. I eat it on everything, but they have an amazing habanero, an amazing jalapeno. They even have an incredible mustard seed sauce that is great for deviled eggs and all kinds of really cool stuff. So go to cienchilies.com. You'll also see recipes and you'll get to meet Maria Covarrubias, the founder, and the chef who is behind these amazing flavors. So check them out today. Also, we are brought to you by Comic Crusaders, the best website when it comes to your comic, movie, and even music reviews. Go to comiccrusaders.com today. Right now, because of New York Comic Con, you're going to see all kinds of amazing interviews of incredible creators, and you're going to get a lot of behind-the-scenes looks at everything that took place at New York Comic Con. So right now, check out comiccrusaders.com. All right, without further review, today, our guest is Charlie McElvy. He is the creator and writer of Spider Squirrel. He also is the owner of Xion Studios, a publishing company of indie comics, and he has a whole host of amazing writers and creators and titles that fall under the Xion Studios, and you're going to hear a lot more from Charlie and team over the next year. All right, without further ado, here's Charlie and I. I hope you enjoy. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to World at War Comics. Our special guest, Mr. Charlie McElvy. Charlie, what's up, man? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tommy, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. So good to have you. I've been following you for quite a while. You've been a busy man. You know, Spider Squirrel is a lot of fun. So I got your issue 1. I got your trade that you came out with, which I went through again last night, man. Super awesome. Obviously, you got Milestone God Quest. I think issue 2 coming up as well. You got a lot going on, my friend.
Yeah, it's never ending. In fact, before we started, I was like this is my today's to-do list, and that's just the comic side of my life. I actually have a real job too. So
yeah, you know, I hear that a lot from comic creators, right? They love creating comics, but they all have a job that they have to do during the day, right? So it takes a lot to get to that point where that can now become your living, right?
Yeah, well, and with the number of kids that I have, so
oh, really?
We have 7 kids, and so
oh my gosh.
It'll be a while before comics, unless like, you know, freaking Disney or somebody, you know, Bad Robot signs my books and makes a movie and it makes billions, exactly. You know, and I can do like David Mack and go around and just appear.
Yeah. I think we're all waiting for that, man. I have 4 kids. I thought I was crazy. 7's a lot, no. Charlie.
I'm psychotic. It's okay.
Yeah, it's all good, man. All good, man. All good. Well, you have a busy household, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, and everyone's super supportive. In fact, my wife, who you held up the trade paperback, her likeness is in that. There's an epilogue that is only in the trade paperback. You meet the librarian for the first time, and that's my wife.
Oh, that's cool, man.
And it's funny because when DC Stolpner did the art, he's like, "Hey, this sounds weird, but can you send me a bunch of pictures of your wife making different facial expressions?" And I was like, "No, I know what you're doing. It's okay." But yeah, and she goes to Baltimore. Like, she went to Baltimore this year, and she cosplayed all day Saturday as the character.
No way. That's so cool, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I love it. And my teenage daughters, they love being my little booth babies. They don't say anything.
Yeah.
They just like watching me work. It's kind of
yeah. Well, that's pretty cool though, man. That's pretty awesome. Well, what I thought I'd do, Charlie, let's go back and I would love to find out when this passion for comics started in your life, man.
Wow. So I think, you know, I guess I'll go back to like my first comic that I remember really made an impact on me. And it was DC Comics Presents number 46. Oh, wow. I can never remember the stupid number, but it was a yellow cover and it had Castle Grayskull on there. And it's a DC Comics book, you know. And then at the top of the mountain is Skeletor holding a power sword at Superman, who is flying at He-Man. And I was like, yo, this is everything. Yeah. And I was probably, I might have been 6 or 7 when that book came out.
Wow.
I'm an old head. Yes, kids, I realize that. No, I don't do TikTok. Although I probably should. But yeah, so that made a big impact on me. And I remember I traced over that book and I drew in it and I did everything.
Yeah.
I mean, I started, kind of creating in my own head, like, oh, and what if, Manny Faces had shown up and, or whatever. So that was kind of it. And then that was the first book I remember. And there was a Teen Titans along the way somewhere that my Meemaw got for me. But there was a 7-Eleven about 2 miles from our house. And
That's cool.
yeah, kids, this is how old I am. There weren't comic shops back then. I had to go and actually walk to the damn pharmacy or 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I took, I just, again, 7-8 years old, I'd walk 2 miles to the 7-Eleven. I'd drop a buck or two or whatever it was on a DC Who's Who. Those became my thing.
Yeah.
And I went regularly just looking for the next Who's Who. I still have all of those, by the way.
Oh, wow. You kept them all?
Oh yeah, I've got
Nice.
downstairs in my book library, and it's just they're just, that's my history. So
Yeah.
that's what kind of got me started. I realized that character creation was really important to me, and that got me going early. So, and then like everybody else, somewhere along middle school, you spend the night at a friend's house. Hey, let's create a Transformers comic book, and we're gonna make millions off of it, and we'll get published, and nothing ever happens.
Yeah.
So fast forward about 2006. I said I really want to do this. I want to get this story out of me. Like I just want to tell something. And at the time, I'm trying to think of what I was reading. 2006. I swear it was Busiek's run on Avengers, but doesn't matter. And I said, I want to do a team book like that. I want to kind of do like an X-Men plus Avengers kind of a thing. And that's where WatchGuard was born. And I started creating all these characters. But while I was doing that and paying for art and all this other stuff, I did skip a thing, but I'll tell you about it later. I realized somewhere along the way that nobody's who's gonna care. So this is pre-Kickstarter.
Yeah.
I didn't have a way to build an audience. Social media was, it was Facebook. That was really it. And Twitter was in its nascency. And so I had a noodle on how do I build an audience? And I walked into a gaming store across street. I was working retail at the time, and I walked into this gaming store across the way. And just, it was New Comics Day. I knew they had comics too, but it was a small rack of books, and it was always just the newest stuff from the big publishers. Yeah. So I figured I'd check out what's coming, and then I go walk around. Well, I saw this book, and I was like, "Whoa, this is superheroes, and it's an RPG. That's really freaking cool." I didn't know I thought it was just D&D.
Yeah.
And so I found Mutants and Masterminds. It was a second edition from Green Ronin Publishing, and I asked the game guy. I was like, "Hey, can I tail the poly off of this and actually go and check it out?" He's like, "No, you got to buy the book." I was like, "It's $32, dude." He's like, and so he gave me the retail shrug, and I was like, "Okay, we've all done that, right?"
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, what the heck? And I bought it, and I immediately tore the packaging off as I'm walking back to work, and I'm flipping through going, oh, this is really freaking cool. So I poured through that, and I as fast as I could, I memorized how to build characters and all this other stuff. And I bought more supplements, and then I found out they had a licensing program. Anyway, fast forward, I get the licensing with those guys, which they still do today. It's a free license. And you can sell with their logo on it. And I created the WatchGuard source book, which I still sell today. It's still actually one of my better sellers. It's like a DC Who's Who, Marvel Comics, official handbook of the Marvel Universe, rather, kind of a guide, but it also has gaming stats in it for Mutants Masterminds 3E, which is their current edition, third edition. So yeah, it was funny though, because I did that to create an audience. I was like, well, they've got their own audience. And so I just want to dive into the gamer community. And I was on podcasts and other stuff for gaming. It was really fun. And I ended up getting nominated for an Innie, which is like a Harvey's, or an Oscar.
That's awesome.
Gaming. Yeah. And I won an Ogre Award, which is not as big an award, but I won. And I was like,
that's cool.
Yeah, so I can officially say I have an award-winning gaming title, but more importantly, and this is a marketing thing for everybody who's doing indie comics or thinking about it, is I found my audience. And I still feed that audience, even though I'm branching out into different genres. To your point, like we're doing. I guess God Quest is kind of still in the same vein because it's still superheroes, but with American Yakuza. I've got a pulp book I'm working on with Devin Arskett and Ben Morse, and then Travis Gibb is working on a book with me that is not really, it's in a superhero universe, but it's not superheroes. It's more mystical and anthropological. Really, it's a statement of faith. What do we believe in, whether it's religious or otherwise? So, books. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Well, fast forward into Spider Squirrel. I would love to find out. So I have an idea of who is Spider Squirrel just by but how did you come up with Spider Squirrel? Because it is a pretty awesome character. The comic is hilarious. There's obviously a lot of action. But can you maybe share a little bit how Spider Squirrel started?
I've for those who don't know me or haven't seen me anywhere else before, so I've been in Men's Health magazine. I'm in a commercial for Premier Protein. I was sponsored by Premier Protein for several years as an athlete. So I was an obstacle course racing athlete. So if you think of Spartan Race or there's a bunch of them: Spartan Race, Savage Race, Bone Frog. There's also Tough Mudder. People have heard of that one.
Yeah.
And so I competed at a world championship level there for since 2014.
That's incredible.
And it was really cool. In fact, this year was the first year I didn't qualify because I didn't run. So I probably could have qualified, but I didn't run. So that's what got me started into this kind of athletic mode. And in the winter, there were no races. And so I was like, wow, I'd like to cross train in the winter, but I didn't want to do CrossFit. I want to do something that was a little bit more simulating of what we do on a course. And I found a gym nearby that was hosting a ninja competition. I was like, hey, that sounds fun. I know an American Ninja Warrior. That sounds like a cool, it's a cool show. I'll try it. It's basically obstacle course racing without all the running because, it's just obstacles. And so I competed and I won first place. And, and I was like, this is really cool. And I love this place. So I signed myself up, and about a month later, I signed my son up. And next thing you know, my wife and my then 11-year-old daughter signed up to do aerial silks. There's two sides of the house. There was ninja and parkour, and then there was silks, pole dance, and aerial arts and stuff like that. And so my wife's over here on this side, I'm over here on this side, and we go regularly now. And it's a family thing.
That's so cool.
Well, one time I was training, and I was actually prepping for Ninja Warrior, and so I was on season 10 for the show, and while I'm putting together my choreography for the B-reel stuff that they wanted, I was on the course, and these kids were like, both named Alex, they were arguing. It was hilarious because they're like, they're supposed to be training, and they're over here, and they go, he looks like a squirrel, look, he's bouncing around, he's just not as annoying, which is not true. I'm twice as annoying. And then the other one was like, no, look at his long arms and legs and stuff. Oh my gosh, look at, he's climbing, he's like a spider. And they were legit like arguing, and I go, guys, I'll just be a spider squirrel. And I said it, and I was like, oh shit, there's something to that. That's cool.
That's awesome.
I created that logo that's on the cover of the book, and I printed it on my training pants, and I printed it on my—
that's so cool, man.
Thanks, dude. So that was my persona. And then I don't remember who I was talking to, but it was one of my comics buddies. Could have been Vito, could have been Ray Anthony Height. But they said that'd make a cool superhero, and I go, that wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And so I started on the design, and Ray Anthony Height actually, in fact, the last book I haven't delivered rewards yet, but the last book I just released has a cover of the evolution of all the variations that Ray and I went through as he built out the costume. He's the one that originally said, I'm going to use your body and head type because I think that it's just you.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of Ray's genius. And then I came up with the chest emblem, and Vito contributed some editorial commentary, like turning the logo. It used to be, instead of an S like it is there, if you turned it 90 degrees counterclockwise, it was like a squirrel running off to yeah, it was like that.
That's so cool.
I showed Vito, and he was like, well, I can tell it's a squirrel tail, but what if you just turned it?
Yeah.
And I go, oh my God, it's an S. He goes, no, duh. Well, there it is. And so
there it is.
And there was one more incident. So that's not the original design. The original design, the pecs were white. And you'll see that in if you flip through like the cover gallery. There's
in the trade.
Yeah.
Toward the back.
Some of them are edited and some of them weren't. But you'll see that the chest is white in a few of the original pictures.
If that's the one you're talking about right there.
Yeah, that's actually some of the evolutionary stuff. Yep.
Yeah, very cool, man.
So what happened when it went to color is John Rock, who DC colorist, and he's awesome. And John colored the chest blue. And I said, "Oh, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But I like it."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, my bad." And I was like, "No, we're keeping that." And so the final piece was that. So kind of funny how that worked out.
That's so cool, man. The other question I had as I was kind of doing a little bit of research is Freestyle Comics.
Yeah.
So you have Freestyle Comics, and then you have Xion Studios, which I assume is your brand. And this, because I was looking it up, I guess it was created by a Michael Watson, the concrete. Is that correct? Can you give us a little bit of a background how you published through them, and then what you're doing now as your own publisher?
Yeah. So years and years ago, Sean Mack was running Short Fuse Media, and Sean and I had engaged, and I was like, "Hey, I'm down." He wanted to publish Spider Squirrel. I was like, "I'm down with it. Let's go." Because I had spent 2 years building up an audience for Spider Squirrel, just teasing images and stuff like that. Anyway, well, I started signing on with Sean, and then Short Fuse went kaput. Sean pulled the plug. He's like, "I'm done," and he basically retired from comics for a bit. And then about a week later, some of us got together. Michael Watson initiated it, got us all together on a call, and said, "Let's go freestyle. I want to take what you guys were doing with Sean and keep going." So Mike wanted to publish, and I was like, "Let's go." Yeah. So Spider Squirrel is the only book under contract with Freestyle. I still essentially run very independently because that's just how I go, right? I mean, I'm just my own dude. But I love promoting them. They're great folks. Michael's awesome dude. And so for the foreseeable future, you'll see the Freestyle logo on Spider Squirrel Works. Now I am matching their trade dress. Going forward, I am using my own trade dress, but I will continue to acknowledge the Freestyle background because I want to pay back. I think these guys are really awesome. So much as I can help them, they help me. That's how it works. So that's what that is.
I mean, that's the community, right? That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yep.
And then can we jump right into Xion?
Yeah. So there's another change coming next year. So
maybe we don't want to talk about too much.
Well, I don't mind, but so I'm taking a break ish. Really not even true. In fact, I'm putting together, one of my things today is to put together a share file because there's another book I want to get finished. I'm going to wrap up a series of books this winter. I'm going to write a couple of things myself, and I'm building out a couple of Kickstarters for next year. So I'm pre-building, one of which is American Yakuza. We talked about earlier. It's already on pre-launch today. Still building that campaign out, but it's up for pre-launch. You can follow it. But Xion is me. I am Xion, and it's something that it's where WatchGuard was born. It's really where Spider Squirrel was also born. And going forward, Xion is I'm expanding out slowly. So Dean Haspel, he's done a character for me. He did a book called Chest Face. It's his character in my universe. It's in the Titan size special that I just released, or haven't released yet, but it just crowdfunded. Dean said, "Hey, you're like the Stan Lee of indie comics," and he doesn't mean like prolificness. Like I'm not this, genius guy. What he's talking about is like my energy and my enthusiasm and my passion. He's like that. In fact, Louise Simonson, we were talking at Baltimore, and she was like, "I can see that," and so that was like, it hit me in the heart. But Xion is that. So I'm expanding slowly. We're going to start covering more genres. So superheroes, it's everything for Xion. And I will start using a different trade dress for the more mature books that we're going to start doing. I've got a couple of one shots coming out next year, more like mini graphic novels. And then an American Yakuza is going to be our first big dip into a little bit more of a mature line. No superheroes or capes. They see some mysticism and powers and stuff like that in a different way. But the story is going to hinge less on the spandex and more on the characters individually. And yeah, we're just going to keep expanding. So we talked about it offline. Anthony Stokes
Yeah.
signed on to do a book. Chris Moses, Travis Gibb, Travis Hill.
Yeah.
Got a few guys and gals who I'm targeting, to sign on, but a slow progressive build up and expansion of the universe. I'm going to get to the point where I'm project managing and not writing anymore, which is going to suck me.
Yeah.
But everything is born from, everything so far is coming from my they're my initial creation, and then now I'm handing them off to different folks. So and Devin Arscott and Ben Morse, for example, I said, hey, I want to do this pulp hero, and I gave them the whole concept, and this is the idea, this is the name I was thinking of, we don't have to stick with it. And they're co-creating or co-birthing or co-parenting with me. And so these guys are gonna really help grow my universe out. So
yeah, no, I mean, all very talented writers in their own right. So we've been lucky to have some of them like Devin on our show, and just fantastic people. Anthony, he's had several Kickstarters. In fact, I think Intrusive Thoughts 2 is a Kickstarter that's live right now, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. And he's a great writer. I love watching him on X and Twitter. He's pretty funny at times as well, too. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
He loves his hot takes.
Yes, he does. But I get a kick out of it, man. He's just a really cool guy. And then obviously Chris Moses, another fantastic human being. So yeah, it seems like you're building out kind of a superhero team of writers as part of Xion, or whatever that next iteration of that creation is going to be, because that's pretty cool to have those type of writers for sure. I did see I think some images that you shared. I don't know if it was in Baltimore, but you and Anthony, as he was signing the contract, which he seemed pretty happy about, which is cool.
Yeah, no, I'm so fortunate that people want to work with me. I always look in the mirror and go, what the hell? Like, why do people want to work with you, dude? You're an idiot.
That's awesome.
But, no, it's awesome. And one thing I'd be remiss in not mentioning is Vito Del Santi. Vito and I have been friends for a long time, and I know he kind of got dragged through the mud with some of the Action Lab stuff because he was an editor over there. But no more. So he's with Action Lab. He officially is bringing Stray over to Xion Studios.
Nice.
So Vito's character, and he's my EIC. He's helping to pull everything together.
That is so cool.
Juggling 15,000 projects and stuff. My wife is an associate editor, so she does all the grammar and the
nice,
and then Vito makes sure that the voice is consistent and the continuity is consistent and stuff like that. So it's a great team effort.
Well, that's pretty exciting. It seems like you're building out a pretty legitimate indie comic publishing company here. It sounds like it sounds more involved than just a hobby that you do outside of your day job.
Yeah, it is. And I keep wondering, like I said, I wonder at what point do I have to stop writing because I'm birthing and then delivering these kids to the co-parents, right? We'll see. I really enjoy it and I love collaboration. So as long as I can sustain it, I will. There's a lot of other folks that I want to work with too. So
for sure. Well, let's talk about that sustainability of being able to balance all of that. I mean, for others that are trying to get into indie comics for the first time, or those that are producing but do have their day job, where does that balance come from, and how important is it to find that balance for sanity purposes? I mean,
well, I'm not sure I'm the sanest person to answer that question, but
let's give it a shot, Charlie. Let's give it a shot.
It really does come down to first off, I'm a segmentationalist. I really don't believe humans can truly multitask, not in the sense that we define it. You really can't listen to a podcast and be answering emails for work. You're doing one or the other. And so I compartmentalize and try to segment things out. So when it's family time, it's family time. When it's time to work on my books, it's time to work on my books. I actually have, like, I showed my to-do list, there, but I have a whole separate notebook for work. And so I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is being somewhat organized. You got to be able to manage a basic spreadsheet. You need to know how much is your output, what's your income,
Yeah.
What do your projections look like? Factor in things like, if you're doing a Kickstarter, are you factoring in your budget that you're going to lose about 11% to Kickstarter and Stripe for fees?
Yeah.
If you're not, why aren't you? And I was on Substack, and I started a crowdfunding section, hopefully to help other indie creators out, because I think the hard part is it's easy to make a book. Now I say that, but just hear me out, right? That's the easy part of it all.
Yeah.
Managing budgets, managing people, getting things printed, finding the right printer. These things are not easy, and you're going to make mistakes, and that's great, but as long as you learn from them. But I think if we can take the collective mind of what we've all done and kind of throw it out there, and if you pay attention to guys like Comics Tribe, oh my God, I could see his face. Gibbons, I'll find it later. But anyway, Comics Tribe, they put out a podcast. Listen to the podcast. Great tips about things that are missing in Kickstarters. But I think that to your point, or to your question, is it really comes down to, are you willing to invest the time here?
Mm-hmm.
It is a sacrifice here and here.
Yeah.
What's got to give? You've got to feed your family, so your work still comes first. Yeah. Whatever else happens, you got to focus on your job. Do your job the best you can. Make sure your family's taken care of, and then look at the time left over and go, okay, one thing I could probably do is stop reading so many damn comics and go write some more. And then it's, I'm guilty of that. I got a manga sitting right here that I was reading this morning.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to passion. Just you're passionate about it, you'll find it. You'll make it work. If you have a decent job to start with, that's hard. But if you're paying your bills today, don't sacrifice your family money, right, for your comics, unless everyone in your family says it's okay. But draw a line. That's what I mean by compartmentalizing. So I think that's the best answer I can give you is compartmentalize, keep things separate as much as possible. But when I say that, I mean like your activity. When it comes to the family, make sure your family is involved. If you're married, make sure your spouse is or partner is involved. If you're in any relationship, make sure your partner is like cool with it. If you have children, don't sacrifice your kids on the altar of comics. That is the worst thing you can do, and they will hate comics for you. That's, and don't get fired because you're working on your damn comic book during work hours.
Exactly.
So I carved this time out.
No, all good points, and couldn't agree with you more. One of the things that I've noticed is you are a big manga fan as well.
I am.
And there's a lot going on in comics right now. There's a lot of people talking about the decline of that's a few
to read pile.
That's a few, Charlie. You got a few going on there. There's this this worry about the decline in readership within comics, mainly the two big ones, just because they mean so much to the industry. When DC and Marvel, I think, are struggling, kind of everyone struggles, especially if you're buying your comic books from a comic book store. And a lot of it, you're starting to see this huge popularity around manga, and it's not something new. This has been going on for a while. Can those two coexist?
Oh yeah, 100%. Man, that was my manga reading pile, but my comic book reading pile is is equally as large. One, it depends on your audience. I think so. Here's my theory, and it's just some schmuck's opinion, but I think the decline that we're seeing is because Marvel and DC are beholden to stockholders. They've got to satisfy the desires of the stockholders, and they've got to keep their IP going. It's one way, shape, or form. And so, for them, I feel like what's happened is since the advent of the MCU, I feel like Marvel and DC, so Warner Brothers and Disney both, have been over-rotating towards movie properties. And so everything they do is trying to feed a movie or a television property and stuff like that. Whereas indie comics, which I actually see as thriving, and if you look at Kickstarter numbers, it's true. There are more comics. When I launched Spider Squirrel #1, there were fewer than 200 active Kickstarters.
Mhm.
By the time I launched Spider Squirrel #3, so about 6.5, 7 months later, there were over 300 active Kickstarters, and that was in the month of December.
Yeah.
Today, I didn't look at it today, but if I had to guess, there's at least 500, 600 active comic category live projects. That's telling me that the growth just isn't in Marvel and DC. So what's happening is there's this perception being created because the big two are suffering, and frankly, IDW and Dark Horse and those guys are starting to suffer a little bit too, except for the licensed properties, which you notice DC or IDW and Dark Horse almost exclusively focusing on property. Dynamite's rotated that way.
Dynamite just picked up. Yep. Yeah.
So what we're seeing, I think, is this decline in comics is really about the big two, to your point. Indie comics is growing, licensed properties continue to grow, and manga is absolutely continuing to grow. My hope as a reader of both is that manga continues to influence comics.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to see some of that. I know it's certainly influenced some of my writing, and I'm working on a light novel of Ronabe, which is a Japanese light novel. 30 to 50,000 words, something small, focused on that 12 to 18, maybe 22-ish demographic, mostly guys.
Yeah.
And because I've seen it, and it's really cool, and it's actually pretty freaking fun to create.
Yeah.
The thing with manga I worry about is the sustainability of manga long term, because as it grows in the West, that's a bigger stress on the mangaka. And as these folks are creating books, and some already under terrible conditions, are they going to be able to survive it? So I think there's a tug and a pull on both sides. I don't know that either are sustainable independently as they are today.
Yeah.
But I think they can both thrive together for sure in the West. So I think the big struggle for us is in the West is, why aren't our books getting read in the Asia? Why aren't our books in APAC, and why aren't they as successful in Europe? I know from my reader, I have 2 folks from Singapore who regularly back just about everything I do. I have about a dozen folks from Australia. I've got about 4 folks from China, Hong Kong, Shanghai, and maybe about a dozen to 2 dozen ish that are regular from the UK, but that's it. I have a couple of South Americans who pop up every once in a while.
Yeah.
I think it's on us. I think we need to get more global in our reach, find a way to reach those audiences. That's how indie comics will survive. And we're more flexible than Marvel or DC in that sense.
Yeah, 100%. No, couldn't agree more. Of the manga, what have you read over the last year that you just think was insanely good that everyone should be picking up?
Yeah. So my personal favorite, it may not be everybody's juice, is Kaiju #8. And #8 just came out, so you're only on the 8th volume, you're not far behind. It is so much fun. First off, it's one of the rare times in a shonen that you have an adult protagonist. So the main character is 34 years old. He's been a failure all his life, that kind of thing. Not in a true sense, but he's just like, he didn't get the job he wanted, and he's always wanted to be a kaiju killer and all this other stuff. And he's on the cleanup crew, and it's no big spoiler. He gets possessed by a kaiju, sort of, but he controls it. And so now he can transform almost like, kind of like a Hulk situation. He does have to, fight for control, and he's still got to deal with the fact that now he's a kaiju on a kaiju fighting organization, because there's this whole government organization he works for. How's that work for you? A lot of fun, and there's so many great characters, and you'll have a favorite or 2 or 3. I like Hoshina. He's one of my favorite characters in the book. But that one, Sakamoto Days, which I have over there, I love. It's hilarious. Way of the House Husband is another funny one that I absolutely just read. Like, I buy it every time I finish one, I buy the next one. And then I recently The Boxer, which is a Korean manhwa, and it's really, really good. I love The Boxer too. So those are probably my top 3 or 4 must reads. Oh, good grief, Don. It's downstairs. That's why I didn't think of it. Yeah, it's
check that one out.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And
Yeah.
yeah, check out Don Don Don. It's fantastic. It's funny and it's scary cool, and
Yeah.
got some great demons and all this possession stuff. It's fun.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's really fun.
Well, Charlie, what can we expect over the next year? I know we kind of dabbled into it. I know that you said there are going to be some changes. Is there anything that you could kind of share that we should expect from you over the next year, or the team that you've put together of all these amazing writers? What should we
Yeah,
be looking out for?
definitely go follow the American Yakuza.
Yep.
It's a
We'll make
mature
sure we
audience.
put the link in there. I checked it out today, so
Okay.
I'll put the link on there. Yep.
Yeah, check that out. What Chris, and it's 100 pages. It's going to be, it's fantastic. The art is awesome.
Yeah.
The artist is actually, it's one of those rare times the artist says, I can't wait for the colorist to see do what he's going to do in my book. And so he's trying not to nerd out while he's drawing.
Yeah.
But it's a really dope story, and it's just the first phase of what we want to do
Yeah.
with American Yakuza. So it's going to be a graphic novel, but we'll release acts as independent digital issues if people need to consume it small. I understand.
Yeah.
That one's a big one. I mentioned what Travis Gibb is doing is going to be really fun. That's an exploration of faith and humanity, technology, and our dependence on things, and the whole shebang there. That's really cool. And then I've got a couple of graphic novels that are coming out. One more of a social media comedic. Imagine if Booster Gold were a bigger a-hole, but a social media influencer superhero. Daniel Calvin wrote a story in there, and then Vito's written a story. And so it's going to be a 3-act graphic novel, or a one-shot pilot is what I've been calling them.
Yeah.
And I got a few other things coming out with Scott Fogg and some folks. The big thing I think to look forward to is I'll continue to expand the catalog. Want to continue to expand the roster of talent. I want to do more with Chest Face with Dean Haspel. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, look for a small rebranding on the superhero kind of. I hate saying all ages, because it's not really all ages, more like teen plus books.
Yeah.
I think we'll keep the Xion X on things like American Yakuza and these more mature books, and then
Mhm.
we're going to rebrand the superhero stuff. So look for that in 2024.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Man, Charlie, I can't wait to see what you're doing. I've watched everything that you're doing on X already, and Instagram, and the signings that you're doing. Man, you're going around, I think, very sneakily grabbing a lot of really good talent. So I can't wait to see where X and everything else that you're putting together is over the next year, because I think you're going to put together a pretty amazing team. You already have some awesome titles. If you haven't read Spider Squirrel, and you want a laugh, and you want to see action, and you want to see really cool stories, please check that out. You also have Milestone, the God Quest. I think you have issue 2 coming out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's shipping with this current Kickstarter.
Yep. So, which is also amazing. The art is absolutely incredible, and the character development within this team is absolutely amazing. And then everything else we'll make sure that we put in the comment section. You got a lot of things going on, and some of your writers have a lot of things going on, so we'll make sure we put all that in there. But Charlie, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on. I'm hoping we could do this again as more news starts to come forward. I think that'd be pretty cool to stay up to date with everything that you and the entire team is doing.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate the time, Tommy.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely do this again, Charlie. Thanks so much. I really appreciate you. Have a good one. Have a good rest of your day.
See you guys.